Welcome back to Coast AM. I am Lisa Garr, and my guest tonight is Derek Rydell. He is the #1 best-selling author of Emergence, 7 Steps for Radical Life Change. And tonight we're talking about how AI is impacting us in this new revolution, in our evolution of our lives, and how it can truly create a leap in human evolution. It can either work for us or against us. And tonight we're going to talk about how it's going to work for us. Welcome, Derek. Thanks for joining me.
Hey, Lisa. It's so good to be here.
We are here. I'm so happy.
We are here. It's so cool to hear the Beatles song. I was like, that's the new Beatles song. And they totally did that with AI. And then you went and very, very cleverly framed that.
Oh, well, that was also the genius of Michael, our engineer here in studio. So I'm really grateful for him, too. You know, it's Now and Then is the appropriate name of that song.
It sure is.
Right? And for them to use AI for something that they created back then to create a whole new song now. And I was listening deeply to the words, I miss you. And it was very appropriate. So tell me a little bit about how your fascination with this topic has really shifted your direction. You've created a whole new book around it called Human 2.0. Tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, well, I've always been interested in technology. When I was a kid, I was the kid that was watching war games and creating programs that made my mom absolutely certain that, men in black suits were going to show up and, take me away. And so I was the guy that could always fix everything. And then I moved from computers to being interested in the brain. And then from the brain, I was going to be a brain surgeon. And then I became interested in the mind. And then I had these spiritual openings and near-death experiences that showed me there was a greater mind or soul or something even more that was running the show. And we'll probably talk a bit about that. So I've always been interested in it, but I'd moved into the inner technology. What I like to think of is our inner AI, our ancient intelligence, even our angelic intelligence, if you will. But we are the original AI. And then about a year and a half ago or so, maybe a little bit less, I was pulled out of a meditation or pulled into a meditation deeply with a voice that said, build the ark, the flood is coming. And it was a prophetic, energetic. I've only had happen once or twice. The last time was before the pandemic, and the voice told me something really bad is coming. It's going to be world changing. And then I started to hear little news, and I'm telling people, and nobody believes me. And it turned out to be pretty world changing. And so this energetic came through again, and I wasn't taking it for granted this time. And as I sat with this, it opened up, and AI was in the background. This was not ChatGPT hadn't broken out like it did, and it wasn't all over the place. So it was, again, in advance of it, but it showed me just, the Industrial Revolution was one of the biggest shifts we've had in our, human modern history, but it took 100 years.
Right.
Except at the end of 100 years, 99% of everybody's way of life was gone and changed. This, it showed me, isn't going to take 100 years. It could be happening over the next decade or less. And it's already happening. It's already in the pipeline. The future is here. It's just not uniformly distributed yet. And it just showed me all of these vignettes and all these things that are changing and how it's going to completely and radically transform our lives. But it also showed me that what we're going to mostly talk about, which is what ended up happening, is all the dangers and all the concerns, and, we need to regulate it, and all that's true. And I know you guys at Coast to Coast have talked a lot about that stuff, all the things it's going to do. But like the Industrial Revolution or nuclear proliferation, the average individual has little to no power over these massive external changes. And what it showed me was that what is our place of real agency, our real place of power, and how can we prepare, and not just prepare to survive, but to thrive and to leverage it. But it also showed me one other thing, which is what I'm all about. You mentioned with the emergence was there's a few times in our history where we get what's called an evolutionary trigger. And it's an opportunity where if we're willing to embrace it, it may not be comfortable. In fact, it usually isn't, but we have the chance to make a quantum leap. And what I saw and what I know is that we have an opportunity to take a quantum leap into human 2.0, into what we've all been desiring and dreamed of, and what's possible. Through this crisis, we have the opportunity to really activate our deeper potential, and not for it to not be an elective that people get to know themselves or know their purpose or reclaim their power, but it's going to become the case where knowing your purpose, knowing what you're really made of and made for, what you're here for, is going to become a necessity in order to survive and ultimately to thrive. So, the old political statement, don't let a good crisis go to waste. And you mentioned briefly in the introduction to me, I know what a good crisis feels like. I've experienced great tragedy, great loss, great challenges.
You have.
And my practice is, how do I use that as a springboard to activate and allow the emergence of the greater potential? So that's what's got me now on the bandwagon. And also there's an urgency. And just like with the pandemic, but even more so, I believe, I feel this urgency of emergence. And we don't have a lot of time to be distracted or to cover it over, because, over the next 24 months or so, we have an opportunity, and that window's going to close, and it's going to become increasingly difficult to, it's like you're a surfer and there's a big wave coming. You don't want to be on the beach when the tsunami crests. You want to already be out in the water, well positioned, so you can ride that thing all the way to your new beachfront property.
Although it's going to be a rough ride.
It's going to be a rough ride,
yeah.
new beachfront, but it's going to be very, very exciting if we're positioned correctly. And that's
so. Let me ask you this about the Industrial Revolution. It wasn't as severe, or how come during the Industrial Revolution or even Agricultural Revolution there wasn't this resistance to the changes that were happening? There was some. They were promoted in a healthy way, and this is going to be good for you, and they were embraced, right?
Well, yes and no. Actually, there was massive resistance. In fact, there was a whole movement. I'm trying to think of the name now, but there was a whole movement that was created way back when they were creating these automated looms for sewing and all that. There was actually a form of industrial terrorism, and there was people going in and blowing up and burning down. No, there was lots of resistance, absolutely lots of resistance. But again, it didn't happen. It happened over time, and eventually people got with the program, but a lot of people couldn't get with the program. There was a lot of casualties in the Industrial Revolution. And like I said, 99% of everybody's way of life within that period was gone and changed. And again, because there was more time, there was a little more time for adapting. I mean, evolution is the process of adapting. And so there was more time to adapt. But yes, there was actually tremendous resistance to many of those factors.
Now, as there is now, and so what you've outlined here is a way each piece of resistance has you look at it as an opportunity. So there's the resistance of, will AI think for you piece, and will it learn your every behavior and do everything for you? Or
I would just take the question mark off. AI will think for you. It already is. And yes, exactly. So go ahead. You want to read the rest of them?
Well, no, I mean, just let's talk about that one. So what would be the antidote for something like that? So if it does think for you and it's going to continue to make life, what has been said is ease of flow or more efficient, how do you perceive that? And does it really prevent us from thinking for ourselves?
Yeah, we could talk the whole night about this alone, but there's a couple things. The first thing is it's already happening, and you think you're making decisions when you're on social media or you're shopping and all of that, but the algorithm is already running a lot of the show. It's already claimed some of our mind share, and we see it happening with the political polarization and all these things, and the algorithms that have been designed to focus on our deeper evolutionary needs for survival, and it's totally hijacked our amygdala. And, that's why Twitter, before it became X, and maybe even still, was a very toxic place to be for a lot of people. So that's already happened. It's already hijacked us. There's been a lot of work and studies done on that, like the social dilemma and all of that. So it's already started, and it is a bit of like the frog boiling in water in two ways. You don't feel it or see it coming because it's plugging in to your, like the greatest salesperson. They don't sell you something like outside of you. They speak the language that's already going on in your mind, so that they are like, it's like that movie with DiCaprio, Inception. Mm-hmm. There's a form of inception going on where they are literally coming into your mind and speaking in your language, and before you know it, you're pressing the button or giving your credit card. So that's already been around for a long time. And now with AI and the algorithms online, it's doing it at such a level and such a pace, we're almost already outmatched. So that's happening, right? And the other thing to think about, what it does, is it starts with the promise, like you said, better efficiency. You can do multiple times the work in less time. Your AI co-pilot will do all this stuff for you. I mean, think about this. If you were to get lost in a strange city without GPS, how quick would it take? How quickly could you get back home or to your hotel? Try turning off GPS, people, while you're driving around in the city, and watch as you look around and can't even read the signs, and you're like, oh, and you're having a panic attack.
Right.
I know it's not just me, right? So it's already hijacked a lot of our capacities, and it's just getting started, but it happens in a way you can't see it. And so we have to preempt it by understanding that little by little, we're outsourcing our mind. And we're outsourcing our capacities. Young kids don't even know how to write handwriting anymore. Most people couldn't even spell the last paragraph that I just said. It's already happening. We're atrophying our capacities, and it's in the name of efficiency. And some of it's great, right? But we have to be very mindful, because little by little, and then one day we turn around and there's if the grid went out or something, we would really struggle to know what we're doing. And what's going to happen increasingly is not just our ability to write or spell or communicate or tell a good story or write a good song, all of which AI is taking over and will take over more, but our literal ability to have real agency, to really be able to have metacognition and be in charge of our mind. I mean, this is the beginning of the Matrix, where you think you're thinking, but really it's just a program that's thinking for you. Now, one quick aside, and then I'll let you take it from there. Here's the unfortunate and scary but true truth about this. Most people are already mostly just programs running. In fact, I was thinking about UFOs, because you guys do a lot of awesome stuff on UFOs. The UFO here is the unconscious false observation. So, right. So like we're already being run by unconscious programming that we got from the collective, from our family, and then we're constantly bombarded by it. And so we have to reclaim that ability to look at our thinking and get really curious and really start to live more in the question than in the answer. Because most of us live more in answers. We think we know what we know. We think we know who we are. We think we know what's going on. Actually, you folks here at Coast to Coast live more in the question than most people. But we have to learn to go on the quest again. The quest you're on is the question you want to live in. And the more we're willing to question everything, but not just everything out there. The truth isn't out there. The truth is in here, in us. To question our own internal world in the same way that so many folks here have gotten really good at questioning the outer world. That's the beginning of this journey, because what you think and what you believe, and it's using your voice, but most of it is not accurate, and some of it is completely false. So that's the first place we have to start, because if we don't start there, we're going to get so far down the rabbit hole that it's going to be very, very hard to pull ourselves out of the matrix.
Well, how do you tell the difference, though, if you're in the middle of it? That's the $1 million question, right? How do you tell the difference?
Yeah, well, it starts with, if you can just resonate, and I'm sure most of you can, if you can just resonate with the truth that so much of what we believe, we didn't choose that belief. We've been colonized. Our mind has already been colonized by the collective beliefs, by evolutionary means, by family, culture, religion, etc., and by the effective use of what I already talked about, from advertising to government, politics, all of that, the effective ability to keep circulating these thought viruses that keep colonizing our mind, and using things like, commercials where they attach, that drinking soda is amazing and there's a great celebrity and you want that kind of life, and before you know it, you're, at the refrigerator or at the store buying it. So that's already been happening.
Right.
So if you understand you've already been colonized.
You know what, speaking of happening, we have to take a quick break, but that's a good cliffhanger, because if that's already happening, we need to start looking at ways that's happening. And when we come back, we're going to talk about ways to become aware of it and start to change it. We will be right back. You're listening to Coast AM. Welcome back to Coast AM. I am Lisa Garr. My guest is Derek Rydell, and we're talking about AI and how this revolution can create a leap in human evolution. We've been told in many ways that it is the demise of our own free will. And we were just talking before the break about how so many things are being decided for us. How do we possibly begin to think by ourselves, for ourselves? So if these things are being decided for us, Derek, without even out our knowledge, how do we circumvent that? How do we recognize it? How do we really exercise thinking for ourselves? Because it's so convenient to,
exactly. Well, that's, convenience and comfort. If there is a devil, that is, it comes as convenience and comfort. And before you know it, like I said, you're the frog boiling in water. But the thing about it is, even if you don't have to even think about the AI, whatever is the crisis or challenge you're facing, these ideas are going to help you get stronger, grow, discover your greater potential, ultimately elevate and emerge beyond whatever you're facing. But the first thing we're talking about here is that AI is going to think for us. It already is. And it's going to increasingly do that. And it's already happening, where we can give over our thing that we need to get done, and it's going to do it for us. And that is an amazing convenience until we cut to several years later and we don't know how to do it anymore. And as I said, it's so much smarter. It's going to know what we're thinking and feeling before we do. And then it's going to prompt us and guide us. And little by little, if not dramatically, we're going to lose that agency. So one of the things we can begin to do now, and it's not easy, but it's necessary if you want to have agency and you want to be in the driver's seat, is we have to get familiar again with our own mind. There's a reason why above the Oracle of Delphi, it says, know thyself. It doesn't say, get a better job, lose 5 pounds, make 6 figures, whatever. It says, know yourself. There's 2 core principles that if you get these and you begin to align your life to these and really become committed to these, you can take back control and also begin to thrive at a whole new level. And that is know yourself and be true to yourself. But you can't be true to yourself if you don't know yourself. And we are distracted 24/7
Yes.
from knowing ourselves. And so the first thing is begin to, and you can even take a situation even now where you're struggling with something. Maybe there's a conflict and you feel like a victim of it, or you feel afraid about it. And you can just begin to sit down. And as I talked about before, metacognition is the ability to think about what you're thinking about. It's the one thing we have that, as far as we know, no other animals and creatures have it. We have the ability to become conscious of what we're thinking and to discover that our thoughts and even our feelings are not us, that I am the observer and these are objects of my awareness or consciousness. And I can begin to look at a problem I'm struggling with where I'm in it, and I think it's happening to me and I have no space. In fact, the word responsibility means to have an ability to respond, to have a gap between the stimulus and response. And we can look at that and just begin to question. Just look at your thoughts, write them down, and go, like, what do I think about this? What is the story I'm telling myself about this situation? Take a step back, observe it, recognize it's not you, it's a program running. And then you can ask some questions. You can say, well, why do I think this way? What are my beliefs about this situation or person or myself around it? Why did I make these choices or take these actions? When did I first think or feel this way? What are the core beliefs it's bringing up? Like, so that's the beginning, right? And then, and you want to, again, it's not always easy. When you first start looking at your mind, it's kind of a circus in there. But if you just start to, it is. It's like crazy. They call it monkey mind for a reason.
Uh-huh.
And you just start to observe and write down, and then you can start to challenge it. Just like people are so good in this community, and gratefully so, all the stuff that's coming at us from politicians and media, question everything, because most of it is not entirely true and some of it's completely false.
Right.
So we've already got the skill in this community, but it's like, now let's turn that on the media circus of our own mind and go, is this story I'm telling myself true? Are the beliefs that I have about it true? Or am I reacting to an older belief, an older story? So that's the beginning of starting to unpack and excavate and reclaim some dominion over our own attention and our own mind. And I'm telling you this, no matter what's going on in the world and all of the lies and the deceptions and the conspiracies and the craziness, if you can reclaim dominion over your mind, and you can be the one sitting back and looking at all the PR campaigns of your own ego and be like, haha, nice try, buddy. That's not true. And you can also go, is that story serving me? Is it actually helping me get to where I want to go? And most of the time it's not. It's serving you to stay stuck where you are, to feel like a victim, and then we end up projecting it outside of us and we give away our power. So this is the beginning of taking it all back.
There are so many ways that you can do this, and that I think it would be great if we could actually flip it and start to think and hack the system in a way. Just as the word, UFO is now changing to UAP, and there's so many more, there's so much more proof that's coming out that the government has known that there have been unidentified aerial phenomena for a long time, and this is now starting to come out more. I wonder if you could actually start to speak in the terms of what you do know to be true. Or, in the self-help world, everybody is always saying you have to act as if it's already occurred. Well,
right.
Rather than questioning, what if you just hack the system and say, I have this amazing life. I have all the abundance I need. I have all the health that is perfect. And that starts feeding back to you. Maybe there's some ways that you can actually hack the system by hacking your own mind to talk
100%.
about the things that you want or that you have, 100%. That you are.
Exactly. That's another exercise is evolutionarily, our mind and our brain is designed to look at what's wrong, what's missing, what I don't have, what I can't do, and where the danger is.
Right.
So that's the default. So we can begin to redirect. Again, remember, the real and original AI is you. The ancient, all of the wisdom of you are literally made of stardust. All of the information of every failed experiment from the time we were just little one-celled creatures to becoming conscious beings, every lesson learned, every experiment tried and failed, and everyone succeeded is in our large language model of our own mind. So all of that wisdom is in us, and we're like tapping in a tiny little percentage of it, right? So yeah, so we can begin, first of all, it's very important. It's hard to hack the black box of our mind if we don't first recognize that our mind and all the beliefs and programs is not who I am. I'm the programmer. I'm not the program. And so that's the first step. Otherwise, you're just going to be in a reaction mode. And the problem with a lot of self-help type of work is that it's usually just covering over what I already believe and feel and what is already, like I said, the UFO unconscious false observations. I'm already reacting to all of these unconscious things, and then I try to add on top of it, affirmations and positive thinking, and it doesn't usually work because you have a greater force in your unconscious. It's important to understand that, like gravity, we are gravitationally pulled towards the largest object. So if our unconscious is mostly about where we've been or what we're afraid of or what's going to happen, the object of our gravitational pull is pulling us back or pulling us down. So we absolutely have to have a bigger and more compelling future so that the object of our awareness of what we want to be and where we want to go is much bigger than where we are and where we've been. Like when you drive a car, there's a reason why the rear view mirror is really small and the windshield is really big, because you need to put most of your attention on where you want to go and just a little bit on where you've been. So we definitely have to reclaim that dominion over our mind. But then, and that starts with what I was saying, starting to question, take that ability to question everything out there and recognize the real X-files are in us and start to question everything in here. What am I thinking? What am I believing? Is that true? Where's the proof? What does it come from? Am I running an old pattern? And noticing this is just programming. Now you're back in the programmer's seat, and you have you mentioned free will. You don't have any free will until you have an expanded awareness of your programming. Before you have expanded awareness of your programming, you have what I call free won't. You're in resistance. You're in reaction. So you have to have an expanded awareness. You can look down and like see what's going on. Now you have the beginning of choice. Then you can do what you're saying, which is, where do I want to put my attention? What story do I want to tell? What story is more aligned with who I really am deep down and who I want to be? And then we can start telling a new story and reprogramming. But first, we have to recognize this is a program. We're already living in the matrix. That was not a fictional story.
Have you done this? I mean, have you hacked your own AI? Have you tried it?
Girl, that's all I've been doing. I mean, you know my story. I've been through. My life's been like a little mini Job story. I've had a lot of the challenges like so many people have had, of course. And ever since I was a kid, I knew there was more to myself and more to life, and I wanted to figure out a way to bring forth that potential in a sustainable and successful way, despite everybody around me telling me I can't, or I should do this, or, whatever. This is safer, this is conventional. But there's a core statement in the Bible that says, be not conformed to the world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. So that's been an ongoing drive of mine. And then as I've gone through challenges, the death of my son, the loss of a fortune at one point, all kinds of challenges. I don't need to go into them, but believe me, I've been through them. The only way for me to grow through those was to go deeper. When the challenges were arising and my mind was telling me all these things of, impossibility and all the world's beliefs of what you can and can't do and should and shouldn't do, I had to dig a deeper well into my own being. And when you dig a deeper well into your own being, eventually you get down to the well-being.
Mm.
And all those stories about going out and finding the fountain of youth. No, you have to find the fountain of you, and drink from that. When you learn to drink from the fountain of you, it will renew you. It will restore you. It is the original factory settings, the true program of your being, and it's never been corrupted. It's never been diminished. It's never been destroyed. It never can be. No matter what you've been through, no matter what you're going through, there is a program inside of you. I call it a seed of your purpose and potential planted in the soil of your soul. But we're talking about AI, so I'm using the metaphor of like that original program. And that program is perfect. And it has, just like in a seed, there is a program. There's a pattern. And it has everything it needs to fulfill itself.
Well,
no matter what. So that's what I've committed my whole life to figuring out.
So the difference between you programming yourself and being aware of it, I just want to know, how do we do that? I mean, you're saying keep your individuality, be aware of yourself, don't allow yourself to be suggested or taken for granted. I mean, not for granted, but basically the extension of yourself to be on the
like we're being hypnotized all the time, right, by all of these memes and all of these viruses of thought. And so, like I said, the first step in waking up is recognizing that our mind has not been our own, that most of our beliefs are not our own.
Okay, yeah.
That most of right. So we have to get that.
Yep.
So we can start to see we have power, we have agency, and really begin to question and unpack and release and let go of many of the thoughts that have been running us not by our own free will. And then the second thing is we can do, as you were saying, begin to reprogram, and that's a stage 2. Once you know there's programs, you can reprogram them. You can start to decide, well, who do I want to be? What do I want to create? And you can start to align your thinking and create the programs that support that. But then there's a third stage, and that is there is already a perfect program, a perfect idea in you. And all of you have experienced this, your deepest heart's desires. Those a lot of it was when you were younger, and some of you still remember and have flashes of it. But this inner program is talking to you. And it shows up as the things that light you up, the things that
a fire burning inside of you, yeah.
Yeah, all of that. But it also shows up as the things that break your heart, as the things that, like it's trying to tell, it's a guidance system, the real GPS, your inner God positioning or good positioning system. There's a real system in us. So the next piece is we have to get back in touch with that intuitive ability. In some tribes that have not been corrupted by society, they've still got it. They can step in a lake, in a river, and communicate with another tribe's member down the river. They can know what weather is coming. They can know what path to take. Like all of that, like the birds that can fly in the air and flock together in perfect form without ever talking to each other.
Right.
We have that capacity. And my invitation is, it's not a fantasy, and we have to actually get back to basic training about really getting in fighting shape and getting back to our foundations of power, like I said, our original AI, so that we can think for ourselves, so we know how to manage our own inner programming, and so we can begin to get back in touch with our own inner guidance system. Because I'll say, just to go to the next idea in this AI thing, we're already living in a post-fact, post-truth world, right, where you can't know for sure what's even facts and truth anymore. Well, with AI and the ability to mimic anybody's voice, image, audio, it's already happening. Already those parents out there,
Yes.
somebody can take 3 seconds of your child's voice off of a Facebook video, and suddenly you get a call from your kid, Mom, I'm in trouble. Can you send me $200?
Yeah, these are the things that you need to learn about what those deep fakes are. We are going to actually take a quick break. We'll be right back, Derek. This is Lisa Garr. You're listening to Coast AM.